Good evening, Scotland. Good evening, social media land. I hope you are well. Let me fix my flipping camera. It's all over the place. Good lordy. I'm so unprofessional. I can't help it. Yes, welcome to that Indy show. It is Monday, the 30th of January 2023. We are recording tonight's live for the security and integrity of the message and the ability to upload and share via other platforms. I always do a wee bit of context setting, and I think I've got it cut down to about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs that are tiny now compared to what I used to ramble on about. But let us start this. Every election won for over a decade and mandates ignored by Westminster, voted to remain in the EU and not even invited to the table to discuss Brexit, then dragged along by toxic Tory Brexiteers out of the world's largest trading bloc in an economy now that is destroying us. A Supreme Court proving that we are not in a union of equals, and a UK government willing to use legislation to prevent progressive legislation voted into law by more than 2/3 of Holyrood MSPs. We now have several sections of the Tory Genetic Technology Precision Bill that will circumvent the devolved competency areas of agriculture and food standards, with the goal of having unlabelled GE plant and meat products on the shelves of Scottish shops. That without discussing it with anybody in Scotland. Anglo-British nationalists and all devolved nations appear to be happy with their marching into full Westminster control. I truly do not understand why serfdom and being subjugated by a wealthy elite who cares not for us appears to be so attractive to these people. I actually find it embarrassing. This is the context in which I discuss tonight's topic on the live stream, that Scotland can do far better than all that I've already mentioned.
My name's Robert, and I have a question for you. Are you yes yet?
Regulars here on the show know that I always pray Robert right at the start, because Robert is an important person in my little journey of Scottish independence. You see, Robert was a previous no voter turned yes, and right now he's actually in the chat. Give us a thumbs up, Robert, please. I know you're there because I've seen you say good evening, everyone. So Robert's journey from no to yes was a tremendous one, and I always stick up the little link of a special video that he made with me, which was his actual story going from no to yes, and it gets quite a lot of views now. It's pretty interesting. People are taking it and they're using it to help show other people that it's okay to be yes, it's okay to have voted no and to have changed your mind. I think that is incredibly important, and I think that if you know somebody that is deciding whether or not to vote yes, and maybe they were previously a no voter, then maybe listening to Robert's video might be a good thing. A good thing indeed. Right, let's see who we have in the chat right now. We have Kieran. Hi, Kieran. We have James and Kareem. Thank you, Kareem, from coming in. Kimru and Cheryl and Robert and Susie and Druss. I think Druss has gone away to Snoozy Town though. It might be a quiet chat because I have put that only people that are subscribers can chit chat sort of thing on just now. But if you have subscribed, come say hello. If you've not subscribed and you want to join in the chat, just click on that subscribe button and we can get into it. Right, so we are going to briefly talk about the GRR because it is pretty hot still as a subject, and a relevant subject and a relevant point regarding Scottish independence. And we've got a couple of videos I want to show you tonight, but that's not everything we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about how an MSP went to the Council of Europe and got them to sign a declaration about the GRR as well. And we want to ask the question, why don't you do that about independence? And we'll maybe even come up with our own little declaration as well. Okay, right, so the GRR still being a hot subject just now and fast becoming the Scottish Tories' new version of the ferries and trying to lay blame at Nicola Sturgeon's door for everything, and this time it's regarding trans prisoners and what jails they go to. Did you know, right, that the Daily Telegraph this week, or maybe it was late last week, has actually gone as far to say that Nicola approved transfers? Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Where is the image? I have an image to show you. Is it this one? Where are we? Oh, why is that all gone? I had these all set up. Right, hold on. They've not got numbers on them anymore. Where's my pictures all gone? That's weird. Maybe if we do it to this one. I had wonderful pictures set up to show you today, and they've disappeared. And I don't know why they've disappeared, because I had them and I tested them all. 1 second. Let me just do camera and chat again. And nope, they don't have numbers. I can change that though. We can fix this on the sly. It's dead easy to do. Add existing image 1. There it is. Okay, good. Right, so this guy here, right, this is the thing from the Telegraph. Nicola Sturgeon approves another trans prisoner to move, okay, to a women's jail. First of all, you have to understand, Nicola can't approve anybody to go anywhere. It's not within her power. The First Minister does not have the power to do this. But this is an article in the Telegraph, the Tory Graph, that actually goes on and on and on about this. I've not got the full thing up there because I do not pay for the Telegraph, so there's a paywall there, and I'm not even remotely going to go into that. But it wasn't just that they went on about as well. They actually went further to say, when I find this little image, which we will need to change. Where's image 2? There it is. Okay. So they also went on to say that now Nicola about turns as a U-turn over transgender prisoners. This is nonsense, again, simply because she never made a decision in the first place to send trans women to all female jails at all. So how could she do a U-turn on something that she didn't even make a decision on in the first place? It's a bit mental, to say the least. Okay, we've also got a wee video just on this subject here just now that I'm going to play you, and you tell me what you think.
The legislation that was passed in the Scottish Parliament at the end of last year, whatever any individual's view of that legislation might be, has no impact on the decisions or the procedures of the Scottish Prison Service in deciding where prisoners serve their sentence. And even if the legislation was enforced, which it's not, it wouldn't have an impact on that. There, of course, are concerns where any individual, whether they're male, female, trans, commits serious crimes of sexual violence, and therefore it is right that the prison service has robust risk assessment processes in place. And I have confidence in those processes, but given the concerns that have been raised about 2 cases in particular where there's nothing to assume that those processes wouldn't have led to the right decision of individuals being in a man's prison, it's important to bring clarity to this and make clear that no transgender person that has any history of violence, including sexual violence against women, will be housed in the female estate. That's the position now, pending, of course, the wider review that is underway on these matters by the prison service. The clarity that is now given by the presumption set out yesterday should give that confidence. In terms of the wider issue, the legislation passed by a 2/3 majority in Parliament after very detailed scrutiny only changes the process by which a trans person can obtain a gender recognition certificate. A gender recognition certificate doesn't give a trans person access to anywhere. It simply allows them to change their gender on their birth certificate and doesn't impact on where a trans person can go, whether they can access single-sex spaces. The exemptions and the protections currently in the Equality Act continue to be there. I think it's right that there is a very rigorous approach to risk assessment in a prison system, and I'm not obviously au fait with all of the rules around prison systems elsewhere in the world, but I suspect what you will find is that that kind of risk assessment, risk-based approach is what is taken, because prisoners in our prison estate have committed a wide variety of offences and will pose different risks, and therefore an individualised approach is the right thing to do, to make sure that it's not risks in general that the prison service is seeking to guard against, but particular risks relating to individuals. So that individualised approach, I think, is the right one. I have confidence that that gets to the right decisions about where prisoners serve their sentence, but given the public focus on this, it is right that we have brought that additional clarity so that people have the confidence that they want in the prison service and the decisions that are being taken.
Do you know what? Love her or hate her, can you imagine somebody like Rishi or Boris giving an explanation like that? I mean, she's not justifying herself there. I'm no world-class fan of Nicola Sturgeon. I don't dislike her, though. I think she's a brilliant politician. People call her all sorts of names, but that goes with the territory. It doesn't upset me with the names, because at the end of the day, I think name calling and all the rest of it is just part of the territory that that she lives in. Anyway, it's a good job that the English readers of the Telegraph, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, I mean this is in an honest way, will not have a vote in any referendum or plebiscite that will decide Scotland's future, and even more so to the Scotland-hating Scots. Can you believe this? There are Scotland-hating Scots that live down south that have been sucked into that whole Anglo-British nationalist way of thinking. And it's a wee shame, because they have no vision of what Scotland could be, and they kind of stay in that backward sort of position where Scotland's rubbish, we can't do any better than what we've got, and that's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Okay, tonight's main topic is going to touch on the Council of Europe and their ability to talk about things internationally, because recently an MSP has laid a written declaration at the Council of Europe, urging the UK government to U-turn on their use of a Section 35 order. The SNP's Hannah Bardell, who is the Livingston MSP, has taken the issue of gender recognition and the use of the Section 35 order to the Council of Europe, the continent's leading human rights organisation, and delivered the declaration to them. She moved the declaration at the Council of Europe's headquarters in Strasbourg last Thursday, and it's been signed by over 20 politicians from 13 different countries, with more looking like they're going to sign up onto this declaration. Just so you understand, a written declaration in the Council of Europe allows the Assembly members to formally express their views on any matter, as long as it's within the Council of Europe's competence. The motion was titled, "The United Kingdom must allow trans people to live their lives with dignity." So what is the Council of Europe? The Council of Europe is the continent's, like I said, leading human rights organisation. It includes 46 member states. Can you believe that? 27 of which are members of the European Union. But there's a whole bunch outside of this that are on this. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All Council of Europe member states have signed up to the European Convention on Human Rights, a treaty designed to protect human rights, democracy and the rule of law. So with the UK being part of this Declaration of Human Rights by Europe still, for now anyway, it's quite a pertinent place to put this declaration. This is all relevant to where we're leading to the question of why don't we do this for Indy? Okay. Anyway, Hannah made a video discussing all this as well, which is quite good, and she explains everything that she did with regards to laying this declaration at the Council of Europe.
Hi there, my name is Hannah Bardell and I am a Member of Parliament for the Livingston constituency. I'm a Scottish National Party member and the head of our delegation here at the Council of Europe, and I just want to talk today about the declaration that I have submitted regarding trans rights and Scottish democracy. Some people will have seen in the media recently that the UK Government has blocked the Scottish Parliament's legislation on trans rights, and I am going to just read out the declaration and then say a little bit about it. So the title is "The United Kingdom must allow trans people to live their lives with dignity." And the Gender Recognition Reform Scotland Bill was passed in December 2022 by democratically elected members of the Scottish Parliament from across every political party. And it was the most consulted on piece of legislation in the history of the Scottish Parliament. It's fully in line with international human rights standards, which call for legal recognition to be quick, transparent, accessible, gender recognition, to be quick, transparent, accessible and based on self-determination. The World Health Organization is also clear that requiring a diagnosis of gender dysphoria is both outdated and discriminatory, and that legislation on healthcare should be modernised to better represent and support the trans community. Many European and Commonwealth nations who are members of the Council of Europe, including Australia, Belgium, Canada, Ireland, Iceland, Malta, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal and Switzerland, have already passed legislation similar to Scotland's, and UK governments have also made clear commitments to reform the Gender Recognition Act. So it is deeply regrettable that the UK government has now chosen to stand in the way of equality, human rights and progress. We, the undersigned, therefore urge the UK government to reverse its decision to invoke Section 35 of the Scotland Act to block the Scottish Government's legislation designed to ensure trans people can live their lives with dignity. And I now have over 20 signatures from many independent European nations who support trans people and support Scotland's right to pass this legislation. And I hope that the UK government, instead of blocking this legislation, will realise that other European nations are behind Scotland and behind trans people and the broader LGBTQ community, and instead will lift up their standards and bringing legislation forward similar to that of Scotland and other European and Commonwealth nations to make sure that trans people can live their lives freely, peacefully and with dignity.
The whole trans story is not going away. It will not go away, and quite rightly so as well. And the democratic tragedy surrounding it as well will also not go away. The amount of energy that Hannah's put into this and the SNP as a whole have put into this is quite interesting. And I'm going to touch on something that some people might think, well, why am I doing that? We'll come on to that in a minute or two. We can see that the declaration delivered to the Council of Europe regarding the Gender Recognition Reform Bill and the use of a Section 35 is being taken seriously. But I've got a question, all right, here just now, is why have we not sent one regarding independence? And we're going to come on to all that as well. I think that by doing that, we can demonstrate clearly that Scotland's human rights are being trampled on and their democratic rights are being trampled on because we're not being allowed a free and honest vote to determine our own future. But it's very important that we understand what human rights actually are. So many people can talk about them, but so many people don't understand where they come from, the history of them. So the next 5 minutes, it's important that you've got a grounding of how the human rights system all operates. So the idea that human rights should have, that human beings should have a set of basic rights and freedoms has deep roots in these islands of Great Britain, would you believe? Landmark developments in British human rights, I say loosely because some of this doesn't apply to Scotland, was the Magna Carta of 1215, the Habeas Corpus Act of 1679 and the Bill of Rights of 1689. But we also have our own claim of right in Scotland. Okay, this is really important. This isn't mentioned in these things, but it is part of our Scottish human rights, our claim of right to choose our own path for self-determination, to choose a government which we want to lead us, to govern us as we best see fit. This is something I'm going to go far deeper into in another show, but in short though, our claim of right is an old document that is still valid and is held up by Westminster and Scotland, that Scotland has the right to choose how it best sees how it should be governed. To go a bit further with human rights, we also have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was adopted in 1948 by the United Nations when the United Nations was only 3 years old. And that was all 50 member states at that time contributed to this declaration and signed up to it. This was the very first attempt to set out a global level of fundamental rights and freedoms shared by all people. Then we have the European Convention of Human Rights. Incidentally, it was mostly British lawyers that played a key role in drafting this. Interestingly enough, let's see who has to apply with the piece of legislation that we have in this country, which is tied to the European Convention of Human Rights. We have this thing called the Human Rights Act. Now, this is about to change. The Tories want to basically run a herd of elephants through this act. But presently, all public authorities, central government departments, local authorities and NHS trusts all have to comply with the Human Rights Act. Other bodies, whether public or private, or performing public functions such as delivering publicly funded care and operating prisons, funnily enough. There's actually the last video that I'm going to play right now is from the British Human Rights website, okay, and it's about 3 minutes long, and it tells a really great story of human rights in this country. I will play it just now, and then we're going to move on to Scotland's human rights.
Human rights in the UK go back hundreds of years. They're part of our history. But after the horrors of the Second World War, people across the world were determined that those atrocities must never happen again. Since then, the UK has played a leading role in ensuring our human rights are protected by law, both at home and around the world. Today, these rights help protect our private and family life and allow us to enjoy a free press. They give us the right to form partnerships with and love whoever we want to. We have the right to demonstrate peacefully and the right to free speech. In fact, we have the right to education, the right to a fair trial, the right to vote in free and fair elections, the protection of law, the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, and ultimately, the right to life. Human rights are the very fabric of our society. They protect our way of life in the United Kingdom. They guarantee our freedom and allow us to progress through our lives with fairness and dignity. So much of what we do in our everyday lives depends on our human rights, and we don't always realise it. When we are ill and as we grow older, we all have the right to care that is dignified and respectful. These rights surround us and protect us, our families and our friends, all through our lives. Human rights belong to all of us without discrimination, whoever we are, from birth until death. To find out more about your human rights and how they're protected by the law, visit www.equalityhumanrights.com.
A lot of interesting things said there. The right to a free press. Is that a free press that is designed to brainwash people into thinking that Nicola Sturgeon has the authority to transfer trans prisoners? You know, you can see that video there is from the UK's website on human rights, okay? And they're about to change all that. You know, that's kind of the scariest thing in the world when it comes down to it. But let's move on to a lot of things that we already know, and then we're going to actually talk about our own little declaration that we should actually be doing. Where is, I need to find the other, there we go, that's what we want. Right, good. So, are Scotland's human rights being cast aside by an ever more right-wing government out of Westminster? The use of many aspects of the Scotland Act 1998, such as a Section 30, transfers of power, is being denied to hold a legal and acceptable referendum. The judgment of the Supreme Court telling Scottish Parliament it does not have the competence to legislate on its own to revisit its relationship with the Union, and most recently, the first time ever use of a Section 35 to prevent a piece of Scottish legislation from becoming law. I would say absolutely yes, that the Scottish human rights are being trampled over, and that's without even talking about the Scottish claim of right. So why not highlight this at the Council of Europe? Why are we not shouting this at the EU and getting recognition for our democratic deficit and our right to choose what government best suits the needs of the Scottish people? Is there a bigger picture that I'm missing here? Or is something else happening in Holyrood? And that's the edgy bit that I'm talking about, okay? Why aren't we shouting this? Why are the SNP, why are the Greens, why aren't ALAPA all just doing something that will get international recognition as much as the declaration that was put at the doorstep for the Council of Europe? Okay, we can fix that piece of legislation by being independent. We really, really can. So the problem that I've got here just now is I want to know why. Okay, I don't think we'll ever know. I'm not going to cast assertions that some, you know, who follow other paths, like other political parties, you know, talking about, you know, the SNP and not really wanting independence. That's not what this is about, okay? Because I firmly believe that we're all yes Scots, and, you know, we're all going to vote yes regardless of our political loyalties. But we need to do something like this declaration that Hannah did with an SNP delegation. I don't know whether you have to be a political entity to go and do this, or if someone like myself could go and deliver this, make an appointment and deliver this to the Council of Europe as an individual. But we need to do something. Okay, we really do. We need to do something to show and demonstrate that our human rights, specifically the right for a free election regarding a choice in our future, is being denied by Westminster. So I've written a declaration, and I'm going to read it live right after the next jingle. I'm going to go straight into it, all right? And I want you to listen to it, and if you think it's okay, that's cool. I'll put a copy of it up on Discord. I'm going to make it into a proper voiced over video as well. But just to set the context of it, here's a very old jingle, one of the first ones I ever used, and I call it the experts jingle because it's obviously people that are experts in democracy. As soon as this is finished, I'll go straight into the declaration, and we'll take it from there.
A sovereign state has the right to withdraw if a treaty is no longer compatible with its fundamental interests or fundamental circumstances, putting it a different way, have changed.
No country that values its independence and indeed its self-respect could agree to a treaty which signed away our economic independence and self-government.
No treaty in the world that I'm aware of where a sovereign nation undertakes to join up and can only leave when the other side says so. So that's the key point, the ability to get out.
Why would we think of signing up to anything that does not allow us to simply say, this is not working, we are not going to sign up to this, and we are leaving?
Democracy fails to be a democracy if the people cannot change their mind, and that's exactly what people
The European Council tomorrow night will be as follows. This is the 21st century, and you cannot hold a nation captive against their will.
Ultimately, membership of any union that involves the pooling of sovereignty can only be sustained with the consent of the people.
My friends in Europe, and all that are willing to read and listen to my words, I am a sovereign Scot, born of an ancient land with its own traditions, religion, and laws before it ever became part of a union. Our history shows that we joined this union voluntarily, merging our parliaments into one to represent the people of both Scotland and England. But what it has evolved into is something that is clearly becoming more and more unacceptable to the people of my land. For more than a decade, we can demonstrate an electoral preference for political change in Scotland that does not follow the old parties of the Union. The Holyrood elections of 2007, 2011, 2016 and 2021 were all won by the Scottish National Party. The UK general elections were won by the SNP in Scotland in 2015, 2017 and 2019. And our local elections were all won by the SNP from 2007 right up to 2022. Even our EU elections in 2019 and up to our last one even our EU elections in 2009 and up to our last one in 2019 were won by the party who want to make Scotland a normal, independent nation. What is probably more important is that when we were asked the question to remain or leave the EU, we Scots returned a result showing 62% that actually voted wanted to remain. Perhaps if this was a union of equals where all the nations had a voice in such pertinent matters, that maybe we should have been invited to the table to discuss the exit strategy that we were going to be forced to accept upon leaving the EU. Our Scottish Government received no invitation. We were made to pay the price of an oven-ready deal that we could all see plainly and clearly would be a disaster for the livelihood of so many, the economy as a whole, and the ability to recruit into our service and hospitality industries by the means of freedom of movement across member states. Scotland did not want to leave the EU, and polls now show 72% of us want to remain. But that will never happen as long as we are governed by Westminster. It is now perfectly clear that much quoted union of equals is demonstrably not what it says it is. We even have a court ruling that states under the rule of law, specifically the Scotland Act 1998, that the people of Scotland must seek permission from the elected officials of England in order to revisit our relationship with the Union. The legal term is to obtain a Section 30 transfer of power, to be able to hold a legal referendum that Westminster would recognise and accept. But how can we hold such a ballot box event if we are constantly being denied the ability in law to do so? Now we have experienced a bill to bring dignity and to a minority group of people being refused to become an act of the Scottish Parliament. We are also being forced to accept GE foods if a bill is passed into law that circumvents the devolved competency areas of agriculture and food standards. This is the same Westminster that refuses to allow us to have an opportunity for a free and fair referendum. Soon, the same lawmakers in London will terminate its affiliation with the European Declaration of Human Rights and instigate the British Bill of Rights. I fear what this may bring, because presently they are pushing through draconian legislation to place a stranglehold on the rights of people all across England and Wales. And if they can prevent Scottish bills from passing into law and circumvent our devolved powers, who's to say they will not do more to Scotland? This is a clear breach of the human rights that Britain was such an integral part of creating. It is ironic that we must suffer by their hands when we have demonstrated at every ballot box event for more than 10 years that we want change. I ask my friends in Europe and whomever is listening or reading to support our cause and sign this declaration. I would wish that the EU and the UN call out Westminster for the travesty of democracy, so that we Scots may exercise our right of self-determination that is recognised by the international community as a whole. Thank you for listening. The Saltire has a growing Discord community. It is the perfect place to rub shoulders with other indie folk like yourself. If you want to be part of this community, send Mo a DM on his Twitter account at the Saltire IG. Okay, let's get the chat back on. And where is my chat bar so I can see us all? I'm in the mood that we need to do more, you know. I really am. We need to be doing more. Cheryl, you nailed it there. They're pushing each door one by one, and I agree with that. It's not a sprint. It has to be a firm march towards it, where basically we can't be pushed off the path. I totally agree with that. There's sometimes the frustration of it all. It becomes frustrating. I'm impatient, and the clock is so ticking right now. It truly, truly is, and it's ticking down to the 1st of January 2024, when all those wonderful things that align us to the EU are removed with the Brexit, what's it called, the Brexit Freedoms Bill. That's kind of what it's called. It's pretty garbage to think that that's going to happen. Anyway, we will finish up here for tonight because I don't want to go into too much more. And I will jump on to Discord if anybody wants to pop in and discuss the points that we've made tonight. I would happily listen to everybody, and I'll set up to record it as well, because I think it's important that maybe we can use this for, not so much for content or anything like that, but sort of like I can go back to it for notes and things. So if you are not in Discord, come and join us. It's dead easy to do so. Just send me a wee DM on on Instagram or Twitter, and with your Discord name, and then I'll send you an invite once we've verified your account. Okay, which is cool. So that's it for tonight. Hope to see some of you across in Discord to have a wee chat about this. And where's my end button? I keep forgetting. I need to change all this on my... Look, see this thing here on my phone? Just so you know what I'm doing. This is... what the hell is it called again? There's a word for it. It's a special thing. And I keep setting it up wrong, and I keep meaning to do it. Stream Deck. Elgato Stream Deck is what it's called, right? And see all these little buttons, right? They do scene changes. So if I push that one right there, it's going to actually come up with the end credits, which I'm going to do in just a second. Right, but I keep forgetting to set it up all on one screen, because there's like lots of screens that do different things for it all. So that's got all my jingles and stuff on it, so I don't have to clicky things. But we'll push the end one just now, and we'll see you all in Discord if you're coming across, and we'll be back here again tomorrow night to ramble something else. Okay, I will speak to you later. Thank you for watching.